There are 10 leadership behaviors that you have to stop doing if you want to succeed and grow and excel in your career. And in today's video, I'm going to go over what those top 10 behaviors are that you should stop doing and why you should stop doing them. Make sure to watch to the very end because you're not going to want to miss numbers 9 and 10. So let's jump right into what these 10 things actually are. Now, to preface this, I should note that these are not my list of 10 things. This is a list of 10 things that Marshall Goldsmith actually put together. And Marshall Goldsmith is considered to be by many the world's #1 executive and CEO coach. He's worked with many CEOs of companies around the world, several of whom have been guests on this podcast as well. And he put together this really great list that I thought was very relevant, not just for CEOs, but for leaders across all levels. We always talk about what leaders should keep doing or should start doing, but very rarely do we talk about what leaders should stop doing. And through Marshall Goldsmith's work, he identified these 10 behaviors. So let's get right into what these 10 actually are. Number 1 is winning too much. And I know that sounds crazy, but the need to win at all costs and in all situations is actually a pretty dangerous leadership behavior. I think it's what gets to these situations like in Enron, where you try to do everything and anything that you can to make those numbers look good, even at the expense of everyone and anything around you. So winning in all situations all the time is a dangerous leadership behavior to have. It's not possible in anything, in any sport, in any activity in your life. It is never possible to win 100% of the time. So if you have that mentality and that's a behavior that you have, you got to stop. It's okay to lose and learn from your mistakes. Number 2 is adding too much value. Again, I know that sounds totally crazy, but the notion that you feel like you have to add value and your perspective and your insight to every single conversation that you're a part of actually hurts you and it hurts your team. I mean, ideally, when you're building a team, you should be surrounding yourself by people who are more talented or more capable than you. You should trust your team members to do the work that needs to get done. But if you're constantly having to interject and no, I think this and I think that, then you just slow everything down. You become the bottleneck and you spread yourself too thin, right? It's trying to make it seem like you're an expert in all areas on all things and you're all knowing and all wise. And that's not really how leadership works. So you should add value, but only add value in the specific areas where you think you have that unique perspective, that unique lens, that unique framework that is relevant specifically to you. But if you think you're trying to add value to everything all the time, not a good scenario. Number 3 is making destructive comments. And this is needless sarcasm or cutting remarks. Sometimes we do this in our personal lives. Somebody says that they can do something and you're like, oh yeah, sure thing, Jimmy. Right? Those types of like underhanded, just cutting remarks, a little smack in the face for what? That doesn't help you. It doesn't help your team. It's something that we need to be aware of in our personal lives and in our professional lives as well. So try not to undermine, don't make those cutting remarks. Sarcasm, I have a lot of sarcastic friends. Sometimes it's okay, but if somebody's sarcastic all the time, it can get to be a little much. Number 4 is speaking when angry. When you are using emotional volatility to get attention and lead others, that is a dangerous combination for success. It's kind of like, do you remember that Snickers commercial? It used to be on the Super Bowl. It was around for many years where somebody, I think even Betty White, I think was the most recent one before she passed away a few years ago. But, she's kind of this angry character that's on the football field and somebody says, are you hangry? Have a Snickers bar. And she eats the Snickers bar and all of a sudden she calms down and she becomes more normal again. The same thing is true in leadership. If you're angry and your blood is boiling and you're red and your heart is pumping and you're trying to lead others and motivate people, it's not going to be an effective situation. Chances are you're going to be screaming and yelling and saying or doing something that you're going to regret later. So don't speak when angry. Try to calm down a little bit. Count to 10. Go for a walk outside. Do whatever you need so that you can get back to a more objective perspective instead of coming at it from a place of anger. Because we've all said and done things when we've been angry that later on we regret. For leaders, it's a double whammy because you're in that leadership role. The next one on the list is negativity. This is also a big one, right? If you're somebody who's always saying, well, let me explain why that's not going to work. The idea that you constantly have to share a negative perspective, even when people don't ask you for it, why be a Debbie Downer, right? It's one thing if somebody asks you for your perspective and you give kind of a realistic point of view. But if you're constantly saying that's not going to work, this is going to work, that's going to fail, this is going to fail, we don't have the money for that, we don't have the resources for this, that person's not that good, this person's not that great, what are you doing? right? Cutting the legs out from underneath your team. I know that's a little bit of a gory metaphor, but you're bringing everybody down a notch. And not only are you going to get a negative reputation for yourself, but you're also going to negatively impact the team and those around you. So don't constantly bring in a negative perspective. It doesn't mean you can't be realistic and share your thoughts and perspectives on things. But if you're always that Debbie Downer or the Johnny Downer, whatever you want to call yourself, not very good. So really quick, before I get to the other 5, subscribe to the YouTube channel if you want more content like this every single week that my team and I put together. Okay, let's get right into number 6. Number 6 is withholding information. And this used to be a big one, right? Because back in the day, it was the people with the best ideas, those who hoarded information. You didn't want to share, you didn't want to collaborate. People would take credit for your work. And the people with the best ideas that would hoard information, sometimes those would be the people that would get promoted. This doesn't help anymore. The fact that you're hoarding information as a way to get leverage or to take advantage over somebody else, that's no longer the world that we live in. Today, a lot of organizations are prioritizing and valuing collaboration. In fact, I give several talks every single year to organizations where they constantly talk about how can we get our leaders to collaborate more effectively? How can we get people to work closer together? So hoarding information, withholding information, even if you know that it can benefit somebody or keep somebody from getting hurt, not a very effective leadership practice. And not only that, but people will know that you're doing it. So it's not going to help you in your career at all. Number 7 is failing to give proper recognition. This is always a big one, right? Rewarding, recognizing, incentivizing, appreciating, valuing your employees. This is something that I've talked about for many years, even when I wrote my book on employee experience a long time ago. But the reason why this is hard is because being able to recognize somebody and praise and reward them is vulnerable in some way, right? To tell somebody, hey, I really appreciate the work that you did. It was so impactful. It really meant a lot to me, is an act of vulnerability. And we're not comfortable with that. And we don't like doing that, especially leaders. But if you want to become a great leader and exceed and grow in your career, then you're going to have to learn to do that, because people don't want to work for somebody when they don't feel like they're getting recognized and appreciated and valued for their work. You wouldn't want to work for somebody like that. Other people don't want to work for you if that's how you are going to be. So that's definitely a big behavior that you want to stop. Number 8, claiming credit that we don't deserve. This goes without saying, right? If somebody on your team does something, you don't want to be the person that says, oh yeah, that's, I was the brainchild behind that. I put that together. Give credit where credit is due. If you keep claiming credit that you didn't deserve, and this is something that happens a lot or used to happen a lot in many organizations in the 80s, in the 90s, in the 2000s. I think thankfully over the past few years, we've been moving away from that, but it still happens in a lot of organizations. And you know what? Everybody knows that you're doing it. Right? If you are a leader that's taking credit for somebody else's work, I can promise you that everybody on the team knows that you're doing it. And you will get a reputation for somebody that does take credit for other people's work, especially with social media, especially with the things that we're sharing online. You will get that reputation. So don't do that. Give credit to other people when they deserve it. And if you get a success and if you get a win, don't overinflate it. Don't overstate it, right? You're not, unless you're CEO of the company and you've brought in single-handedly by your lonesome billions of dollars, take the success and be realistic with it. Just say, thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that we closed a couple deals, instead of like, oh my, we brought in these deals, we transformed the company, we're saving the business, even though you're really not. Don't over embellish your successes. Don't take credit for the successes if they are not yours. Number 9 is refusing to express regret. Again, a big one, also very relevant to our personal lives. If you're not able to take responsibility for actions, admitting you're wrong, recognizing how your actions are affecting others, that's also not good. We all have regrets. We all have mistakes. You can't be that person who says, nope, I don't have any regrets. I've never made any mistakes. That's complete BS. Come on, let's be honest with each other here. We all have regrets. We all have mistakes. And especially if you want to get into that leadership role, you want to be able to talk about those regrets and those mistakes with your team, specifically what you learned from them, how you're going to make sure that those don't happen again, right? We don't just want to talk about our failures and mistakes, but talk about those lessons learned. But if you're somebody who never does that, you're basically saying, I'm perfect and, I'm the epitome of what leadership should look like, and nobody's going to buy that for a second. So it's okay to talk about those regrets. And number 10, the last one, is passing the buck. This is something that we still see a lot, right? When something doesn't go well, we blame other people. We blame our team. So you're leading a team or you're in charge of a project, it fails and you say, I knew it. Jane shouldn't have done that. Jim over there screwed it up. But you're the leader of the team, right? You should be taking accountability. You should be taking responsibility. You should be taking ownership over the mistakes that are made. Don't pass the buck on to other people. Similarly, you don't want to take credit for other people's success, but at the same time, you also don't want to blame other people for failures, right? You as the leader, your job is to shield other people from those failures and from those mistakes and to give credit when credit is due. It's a tough job. It's a hard job. It's an uncomfortable job. That's why it is leadership. If you're not able to do that, chances are that you should not be in a leadership role. So don't pass the buck on to other people. Take the ownership, take the responsibility for the mistakes. If you're a team leader and a team screws up, hey, guess what? That's on you. You got to figure out what you got to do to improve. So I hope you enjoyed these 10 things. These are again from Marshall Goldsmith. These are 10 things that you as a leader should stop doing. I repeat, these are 10 things that you should stop doing. And leave me a comment. Let me know what you think. Are these 10 things prevalent in your organization? Are you trying to stop doing some of these 10 things? And if you have suggestions for other videos and content that you want to see me create on this channel, then leave me a comment below. Let me know what you think. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.